Alright, it's day 27, episode 2 of this growing a Kadota fig cutting series. Welcome back. The leaves at the bottom, all these shoots are really taking off at the base of the stem. Not what I expected going into the series, but that's just what happened. And there's also some new growth or signs of it at top as well. There's some new leaves and shoots, and they're moving along slower than all those other alternative offshoots that are coming off of the base of the stem. They were already there in the beginning, but they were much smaller. And as you can see, that hole in one of these original leaves is it's still there. I think it just grew proportionately with the leaf itself, and there's another hole in one of the other leaves there. The old leaves, the existing ones, are not as lustrous as the new ones, and this is footage from day 34. So as you can see, they're more of a yellowish green, and they've got some spots, some burns as well, imperfections, and it just looks like they were grown under different conditions or something happened early on. I know that nursery is sort of a forested environment with these things sitting under the canopy, and there's a lot of pests as well, and they have all those government tape traps to see what kind of insects are being trapped, etc. I'm sure there's a lot of parasites and pests for all sorts of plants that they don't want to make it all the way out to orchards and farms. So these older leaves I expect will either be trimmed by me at some point for aesthetic reasons down the road. They're not too bad, but it's just they look a little different from the new ones. They don't look as good, but eventually they might shed on their own anyway. As you can see there, that's where the original cutting was cut. So it's already grown taller than that, and it's just budding all over the place. So that's how you know this is a cutting instead of a fruit tree seedling, which tends to shoot straight up perpendicular to the ground. So on the bottom here you just have all these new leaves and shoots. The foliage looks really nice actually. It's thick and waxy. The new leaves are very robust. They start off sort of a more a lime green or a yellow green, and then they become more dark. And yeah, and this coco coir has been really good as well. So you can see a little burn spot, a brown spot down there on one of the new leaves. It's kind of unexpected. So as I mentioned before, in many series I've been doing this Miracle-Gro all-purpose plant food, a big scoop, as I'll show you later, in about 2 gallons or slightly under that of water. But first I'm crushing in some men's one-a-day multivitamins. So there's no real like super clean and easy way to do this. This is just how I do it. I have a specialized pair of pliers that's blunt. It doesn't have a cutting edge. It just has like a long crushing edge that's broad. So I put in some water, swirl it, and I've actually had this box of Miracle-Gro all-purpose plant food for a few years now. I don't know if it's been at least maybe 2 or 3, but I'm actually running kind of low, so I'll have to go buy a new box at some point. But this is the same fertilization regime that I've had for many other plant series in the past. It's basically based on, you know, the updated composition of the Miracle-Gro all-purpose plant food. It used to have a different composition with less micronutrients in it, but now that it, yeah, it has more. It's basically whatever's in the vitamin pill, like complements what's lacking in that blue powder, the blue crystals. So by the time I've dissolved it in a large amount of water, it doesn't really have a color coming out of the watering pail, so that absorbs very quickly. It's nice to have a growing medium that's really fluffy like this now, because it just absorbs very quickly. There's no nonsense. There's no waiting for 2 or 3 inches of water to sink into mostly sand, but partially small fraction of clay soil, filtered clay soil anymore, because the holes that I had in my original dual Rubbermaid trash can, self-made planters, that just wasn't providing enough drainage and aeration. I mean, the drainage was fine enough. Everything would drain out within a few minutes, but the aeration clearly wasn't. So even though I don't like how most nursery planters have huge holes on the bottom, and these included, it's just because it's like the coco coir or whatever growing medium you have just falls out. It's pretty much necessary. And even that pot that the Joshua tree is in on the left here that you see in the background, that's an old pot. They don't really make them like they used to anymore. They don't make really thick, nice ones like that anymore. They make a lot of planters, self-watering planters as they call them, with much flimsier construction. So the bottom tray just pops out in the larger ones, like while you're handling them at Lowe's and other places, probably like Home Depot, Target, or Walmart. So I'm looking into a custom solution and to do a transplant for that at some point this year. And I just wanted to wait a few months to see if these 5 plant growing series that you see all the time in my watering footage all do really well. And it's been I don't know how long, it's probably not even been a quarter since I've transplanted everything into these new pots with coco coir. So it's probably been I don't know, 2+ months, not quite 3, and everything's done really well. The end of this episode is day 70, so yeah, that's a little over 2 months, not even 2.5. So as you can see on day 49, the footage is, you know, it's taken every week, and the leaves are really doing well. It's just explosive growth everywhere. The foliage looks really great. It's basically overcrowded at this point, and the top is actually not growing as fast as the bottom. So I think all those other shoots are going to catch up, and this thing is really just the second episode is really just more of a progress report with no real problems, I would say. And you can see a little fly over there. So the flies just kind of bug all the time. I hate flies. Those are like housefly type flies, or maybe some other variant, a smaller kind. They're not as big as most houseflies, but that one, or houseflies, I think I saw another one. Yeah, they just can't be shaken from this fig tree. So I think they must really love whatever fragrance that they can smell that's being exuded from these leaves that humans can't smell. So here I'm just kind of trying to shake them off, and they go immediately back. Flies are really obnoxious creatures. So yeah, you could just see another fly, like just kind of darting around. So they leave for a while after you water and spray, but they'll come back soon enough. So yeah, actually some of this fertilizer just kind of goes over the edges too, because the leaves are kind of acting as roof shingles, and so all the water just kind of flows off of it, or most of it does. So it's kind of a unique experience, because usually my plants have plenty of space to maneuver at the bottom, as you can see with all my other plants, and this one is just like there's no convenient area to stick a hose or a watering pail nozzle in. So I'm spraying this Bayer Bio Advanced again, and it's obviously not doing anything to the flies because they keep coming back. So it's day 56, and the growth just keeps on continuing. You can see the clear difference between the old leaf on the upper left and all these other new leaves. The new shoots are growing really tall, and they've got these beautiful thick green stalks. So there are some blemishes, as you can see, on that leaf on the left, the lower left. So I don't know whether some of this is just due to fertilizer sitting on there, even though I do my best to wash stuff off, or if it's airborne pests. Even though I'm spraying this Bayer Bio Advanced insect mite and fungi control every 2 weeks, I think, like many other consumer pesticides, it doesn't really get the full job done. It's not like a full-time bodyguard for your plants. You can see another leaf that's been chewed on, actually. It's been eaten by some other kind of bug, and flies don't do that kind of stuff. So it's on the right, the upper right, and then this is some other kind of pest. So obviously they're not all dying from this pesticide, but the leaf growth here is just so explosive that It doesn't matter if you lose a little bit of leaf mass. It's like way less than 1% is being eaten compared to what's growing. So yeah, not really worried. You can see a little webbing on the center right there. So yeah, I think there might still be an issue with spider mites and things, although I never actually get to the point where I see spider mites crawling all over with webbing all over. So it's day 63. My plants were actually underwater for about a week or two around this time. That was around June 2022. And basically what happened was I would water every 2 weeks, as I showed you earlier, but it's not really a large volume of water because it's like 2 gallons of fertilizer and crushed multivitamins spread out over 6 pots basically. So what was happening was I thought it was fine if the coco coir surface was just kind of drying out the next day after watering, but actually that's a sign that the whole thing's underwater, because the coco coir is like a sponge. So when you really soak this stuff, like it'll stay wet for like over a week or almost a week, even in the hot summer sun of San Diego. So yeah, I wasn't getting that. I think the middle region of the coco coir, like most of it was just drying out, and I was only really wetting the top a little. Sometimes I would fill the bottom watering dish like you could see here and letting it soak back up, and that just wasn't getting the job done. So it was around this time, after I shot all of this footage, that I did a very heavy watering, because these leaves were actually drooping before I started filming on this day 63, and I knew things were kind of in dire straits and that probably all of my plants were dehydrated at that point, and that's probably just compounded by all of the fertilizer that's been added that will suck water out of the plant if there's just not enough water available. So this is day 70. You can see the growth is incredible. There are leaf blemishes in some leaves. At the bottom lower right there, you can see some of it's been eaten by some kind of a bug, but I don't see any caterpillars. They must just be airborne predators that just fly on and just eat some of the leaves and fly away. And I'm not seeing what they are, even though I checked this plant out a lot, and my other plants as well. So yeah, so there's some holes and blemishes, and actually I'll show you later, but there was a leaf in the footage when I had this at another angle where there's like little droppings. So those must be insect droppings of some kind. That reminds me, I haven't scattered snail and slug pellets around for quite a while, so I'm not sure if that's it, but I think I would see slugs and snails if that was the problem, and I'm just not seeing those lately. So I saw them a lot when I had like 90+% sand on top of all my pots, but I'm just not seeing that anymore. So maybe it's seasonal. Right now it's already early July, approaching mid-July 2022. August and September are the hottest months in San Diego. So you can see there's dung over there, all these insect droppings, and they're not actually that easy to shake off too. So I'll spray that off with the hose. It can serve as fertilizer, but it's just a sign, combined with all of the other leaves that have been bitten or have spots, that there's some kind of problem brewing, and the Bayer Bio-Advanced pesticide is not completely getting the job done. So thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for further updates.